Have you ever wondered if insects feel pain? Have you ever considered a beetle avoiding the pressure on an injured leg, or a cockroach writhing frantically as it gets devoured by ants? We as humans like to think that our pain is different from other animals, especially when it comes to creatures as small and abundant as insects. Today, I am here to tell you that insects in fact do feel pain, and that they have the capacity to feel chronic pain and develop trauma-like behaviors, much like humans do. To do this, I will provide a brief explanation of the physiology of pain, as well as a detailed explanation on the most prominent experiments done on insects. Insects do feel pain, and it is not only supported by a growing body of evidence, but having this perspective will make us more compassionate as a species, and it will also incentivize more research done on understanding the brains of insects, which has a lot of scientific potential in the fields of medicine, as well as helping us further understand the phenomenon of consciousness. I'll first be talking about the phenomenon of pain, its definition, and then I'll tell you about fruit flies and the experiments that we've done on them that tell us and give us evidence that they do in fact feel. So what is pain? Nociception refers to the sensory processing mechanisms that are responsible for relaying pain signals to the central nervous system, and many genes regulating this process are conserved across phyla, and including humans to insects. In mammals, neural tissue houses the neurons that include nociceptors, which are a distinct set of neurons that become activated when various thresholds are crossed. When fired, nociceptors can relay pain signals to the nervous system, but it can also react reflexively within a localized region. So the pain receptors are actually distinct from what we normally use to sense heat, touch, and other sensations, and they only get activated when something gets too cold or too hot or too spiky or too rough, etc. And it turns out that we share the same nociceptive circuits in terms of temperature with other fruit flies and rodents. The DTRPA1 gene is a member of a family of proteins that contains the regulation of thermal sensory signals in other species. The fly analog of the DRTA1 gene is used to sense coldness as well as heat in humans and in rodents, and it is used to detect infrared sensations in snakes. Chronic pain in flies. So, injured flies exhibit an altered thermal escape response, which is a higher order brain function. And so flies they don't just reflexively try to escape. The pain signals get delivered to the brain, and then the brain responds with a certain set of behaviors, and in this case, it's the escape response. In the experiment, altered flies were amputated in the middle right leg, and the injured flies were then allowed to recover for 21 days. And after 21 days, they evaluated their escape response at different temperatures. So 42 degrees is death, 38 degrees triggers the escape response in normal flies, and it doesn't trigger any response at all in flies that have their TRPA1 genes removed. Even though the intact animals, the wild flies, displayed minimal escape attempts when exposed to 38-degree temperature, after the amputation, the flies showed increased escape behaviors at lower degrees than 38 degrees, as well as the number of escape attempts increased, and so their escape response was a lot more intense at the same temperatures when compared to wild flies. And injury does not change the response to the harmful stimuli at the actual deadly temperature, which is 42 degrees, and the behavior change was only limited to the subnoxious sensitization, so anywhere between 36 and 38 degrees, and it is consistent with the phenomenon of allodonia, where a painful behavioral response is elicited from an innocuous stimulus. So examples in humans would be nerve injury, where if something happens and the nerve gets damaged around the arm, and they are allowed to recover, sometimes they can get hypersensitive to certain light innocuous stimuli, such as the pricking of the skin, which will increase a very violent pain response, even though it's not very harmful. So this shows that peripheral injury leads to central changes that enhance the escape response circuit. And so why does this even happen? Like, is it just mechanical, or is there even more similarity between the human brain, mammals, and flies? So the cause of this sensitization was due to changes in the fly's central nervous system, specifically the loss of inhibitory GABAergic responses that are also conserved in mammals and in humans. So the damaging the fly's leg triggered heat allodynia, and this occurred through a neuropathic mechanism where uh, normally if a fly is injured or is exposed to harmful stimuli, certain GABAergic responses happen where the GABA chemicals are released in their brain and the pain response is dampened down. But with the flies that had their legs amputated prior and were allowed to recover, they were a lot more sensitive and the GABAergic responses were a lot less compared to wild flies. And in human pain patients, peripheral neuropathy is a common cause of neuropathic pain. And so we see this all the time in the medical field with humans. It includes phantom pain, and a lot of nerve injuries exhibit a general pattern that's similar to this. So, in conclusion, let us assume that most creatures feel pain, including insects to some degree, and be as respectful as we can, especially when we kill them, because when we have to inevitably squash a mosquito or smash a cockroach in our house, we want to minimize the duration of agony that they'll be feeling. And not only will this make us compassionate as human beings, but it will also help us look into and incentivize scientific research into insect brains, which has great scientific potential in furthering our understanding of pain in the medical field, as well as deepening our understanding of what it means to be a conscious creature. Thank you.